happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to this Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative webinar today. And this is kind of fun when it's Friday, so we may as well just start it out where we belong. You probably saw in the invite, it was super sticky solutions. Well, it's kind of funny because truthfully, when Dennis and I were putting together, we said, well, let's call it super sickly solutions. And obviously, because we're marketers and we're, an agency, and we've been doing webinars for years and trying to get agents to turn their heads. So long story short, we're going to talk today about some of the ways that some of these products out there are perfect fits for people who may not be as healthy as they get older. And sometimes you got to carrot people a little bit by having kind of a name of a webinar that people are going, I wonder what that's going to be about. I better jump on. So long story short, it worked. We got some people on, and you guys looked at super sticky solutions, and I had to laugh because we got a great marketing team backing us up here. And when we put it in there as super sickly, and they misread it as super sticky, and our team said, oh yeah, we scratched our head wondering where you guys are going to go with super sticky. But anyway, I had to laugh, and I figured, Dennis, I don't know if you appreciate it, but I figured we better be transparent because the sticky part was kind of funny. It was like, okay, well, these will be sticky for people who aren't healthy, and it'll work. So
that's right. It all starts with a letter S, Tom.
Exactly. It's very close. But anyway, appreciate it. And I didn't see 15 of you log off, so I figured that's a good sign. So welcome today to this webinar. And again, my name's Tom Randall. I've been with GoldenCare forever. And Dennis, had the pleasure of working beside him for, I think I've been in the industry about 27 years now, and in my 27th year with GoldenCare. And Dennis has a wealth of knowledge, and I'm glad you joined us. If you're new to these webinars, I appreciate you guys jumping on. And as you know, Dennis, I might be yelling at you and he's quiet, or vice versa, because we're not in the same location. He's in Michigan and I'm in Minnesota today. And just wanted to welcome you all and make sure I do my disclaimer before I even let Dennis say hello, is that we have a lot of recorded webinars we're going to show you hopefully today before. And one of the biggest things we stress every time is that, it's so necessary right now to go out and help people. And it's so important that we do that, and that you guys step out of your comfort zone, even if you're selling other products, because these next 10 years or these next 5 years are just going to be unbelievable in this market, because all these baby boomers are getting older. So Dennis, I'm going to let you jump in, talk a little bit, because it kind of fits today on the shifting market and what we're talking about as far as how long-term care, which we've written tons and tons of, has kind of shifted in these past years, if that's okay.
Yeah, Tom, it's interesting because if we go back, as long as you and I have both been in the business, it was a pretty limited choices. If they couldn't get coverage to a traditional, back then we didn't even have the hybrids. And so the evolution of the market in the care planning space to provide solutions has gotten more and more consumer friendly. Again, going from fully underwritten down to where in some cases we have no underwriting and is close to guaranteed issue. And the reason for all that is because of this visual here. 80% of mature Americans who are 65 plus have at least one chronic condition. Many have more than that. They're comorbids. They might be they might have 50 units of insulin, so they're insulin dependent diabetic, but they also smoke, and they also have a height and weight disproportion. So it's not one issue. It's a combination of issues that make them uninsurable. And so we need to make sure, as we look at the landscape today, Tom, and you're going to put up the puzzle pieces here. Yeah. Great. If you've got someone who isn't in that super sickly, where it isn't a sticky situation for you, then hey, great. But that's why we have a menu that takes into consideration really everything from, as Tom has indicated, from an availability standpoint, from the state that you're doing business in, to making sure that it is going to meet the underwriting criteria. So Tom, I'll let you pick up and maybe just kind of, we've talked about this a little bit in the past about the importance of having the ability to have these combination solutions.
Right. And again, today's webinar on the super sickly or sticky, like Dennis joked about, I mean, that's where we're going to go today with this. And this is going to be a relatively kind of broad scope, 30,000 front view on some of it. But if you remember, some of you were on our stacking webinar, and that's why I just stole these slides today from this, because this is kind of a nice lead in, is talking about, the traditional long-term care, which we did tons and tons for years, and then the market shifted, underwriting tightened up. And then we had the hybrid plans in there that was more for use it or lose it. And a lot of those plans, we're going to talk about how there's some new ones out there. Today, we'll talk a little bit about some great options, but some of these traditionally are a little bit easier because it's mortality as well as morbidity, but they can get some people through who couldn't get through traditional long-term care with some of these hybrid plans, and vice versa, I guess I should say, to be safe. But on the flip side, when you go to the right-hand side of the screen, that's more what we're talking about today. And you can see there's our 6 products that we have right now for our Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative, because the underwriting is much more flexible. We'll talk about that a little bit today on all these plans. And again, we won't beat you over the head and bore you with each one, but just give you some broad examples. And when the short-term care plans came, that was great. But again, even with those, the underwriting was a little tough for people who might be a little bit more sickly, right? And that's where those home health care plans have been a really nice fit. And we'll see that today jumping out right front and center. So again, the biggest ability of all these plans, you guys have heard me say it, and I know I see a couple names that might be new on here, but these are available on the website, so we're not going to spend a lot of time, but the full comprehensive short-term care plans, you can see here, pretty broad reach with our 3 plans that we have, and this color-coded map, again, is available for you. And then on the home health care only plans, we have a full broad spectrum. And again, True Freedom, I just always have to stress, because a lot of you agents work in multiple states, or you work in states that just don't play nice with these home health care only plans. So again, the True Freedom is a nice standby, because you can look at your clients and know in your heart that whatever client you're talking to anywhere in the country, and today we're going to really stress, even if they're sickly, you can have for a plan for them and have some opportunities for them to have coverage. So that being said, again, Dennis, this is just that broad slide that we've used a couple times to talk about, long-term care is the toughest underwriting, but it can be a great, great, great plan. Same with some of those comprehensive hybrid plans out there on the life side, like the Nationwide and the One Americas, et cetera. But then we come into saying, what if people are a little bit more sickly? Then you have to start looking at these other options, right? So again, here's just from our Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative. Here's the comprehensive plans, literally just a few underwriting questions. We'll talk about that today. And again, the larger, broader plans, which are great, these closer to long-term care because they have facility and some really robust coverage potentials. But with those two, you're going to see they usually are thought of as saying, boy, way easier than long-term care underwriting. And that's so true with all these plans. But now we're going to show you today a little bit about the fact that because a couple of them did some creative things on the underwriting side, we can really make those plans reach a lot more people too. So not quite where we can go with the home health care only plans or the True Freedom, but we can definitely throw that net much wider than what we're used to. So Dennis, what I did here, and you saw from the presentation, just kind of put them together one at a time, and I show a couple of examples on the apps as we go through. But if you want to jump in, I'm going to show the apps for this. It's up to you. If you want to take...
Well, the part of taking underwriting off the table is opening up the net wider. And as Tom just indicated, whether it's the extended care plans like the OmniFlex or the Wellaby Essential Care Plus or just Essential Care, you're looking at whether or not, and we're going to go through and just give you a quick example of the underwriting. A lot of it is for you. You don't have to become a field underwriter specialist. I mean, these questions are much shorter. I mean, it's not a 55-page application like Mutual of Omaha. Typically, it's 7 to 11 questions, depending upon the carrier. And Wellaby has done a really nice job. One of the things that we had input on with Wellaby was we said that, if you want to capture couples business, there's always going to be, not always, but in many cases, there's going to be one individual who's healthy and one who's not healthy. And knee-jerk reaction, and we've been doing this a long time, is that the healthy person doesn't want to offend the unhealthy person, especially if the wife says, well, if Tom can't get it, then I don't want it myself. And so there's the ability to have an uninsurable rider that can be added on with basically, as long as they're not receiving care, there's no other question. So this is a great way when you have that sticky situation, and it becomes sticky. It's sticky in the sense that the one client that you think will want to take it isn't going to take it, even though they're healthy enough to take it, because the other spouse can't qualify. So we're in the problem solving business, and you can see here just how easy it is with the Omniflex, because the Omniflex, back to that for a quick second, has two-tier underwriting, and maybe they'll be able to qualify for both tier 1 and tier 2, or maybe they'd only qualify for tier 1. So Tom, you can walk us through and just show us kind of an example of how easy that process is to identify whether or not someone's a candidate for either tier 1 or tier 2.
You bet. And while Dennis was speaking there, I put this on the screen so folks who are watching this later on the recording can take their time and pause it and read all this. I'm not going to do that today on this webinar, but I do want to show you that's the two-tiered concept that Wellaby and Omniflex has. And again, I just stole this slide from a previous plan design. You'll see all this in more detail. But basically, you can see this is their knockout questions, and it looks intense, but it's really broad subjects, as you'll see. And then they have a second tier to say, hey, great, if you got through the first tier, we can offer you for sure at least a limited plan that has $100 per day, which is $3,000 a month, a very strong plan, facility and home care potentially. And then if you can answer a few more questions, we'll go even further and offer you that full-blown plan, okay? So what I want to do really quick, Dennis, is just show, I'm not going to spend time training on this. I'm just going to show you really quickly on our InstaPivot tool that we have, and we'll show you this on our website. I put in our 6 plans here that we have for our Integrity Short-Term Care Initiative. I put in another one. It's a really popular full comprehensive short-term care plan. And basically, just so you know what I'm going to show you in a second, on the left-hand side here is 45 different rows of every question or every health condition that's on any one of these applications potentially, okay? And then it shows you really quickly, depending on what state you put up there, you can really quickly put it in there and say, well, if I'm in Alabama, which ones are available? And it'll turn green. So it's a great little tool. But what I wanted to show you today is there's a way to show the summary here. And we don't do this very often anymore, but we used to when we first were showing people the power of some of these different plan options. And it kind of fits today, right, Dennis? Because we're going to show you today that of all those different health conditions, all those 45 different rows of groups of different health problems, you can see True Freedom's home care, 44 of those 45 are yeses. You can answer yes. If they say they didn't have that problem, 44 times out of 45, you could give that a plan away or sell that plan, excuse me. So Manhattan Select, same thing, 44 of those 45 rows. GTL's home care right behind it, 43 of the 45. If you look over on the right-hand side, we're not talking today a lot about these other comprehensive short-term care plans. Even though GTL is one of our exclusive plans in this short-term care initiative, it's a great, great plan. So is Aetna. But you can see here only 8 or 10 of those rows that you'd be able to get coverage, right? So what we're trying to show here is that the power of having these unique plans, Manhattan and Wellaby did, is they said, let's break it apart and have the same policy that has a limited benefit and a full benefit, or Essential Care calls it, or excuse me, Wellaby calls it Essential Care, and the full plan is Essential Care Plus, right? You can see here with these, Omniflex, we worked really hard with this, Carrie. It took a long time to get it in place if you go to the product training. But even the full benefit is 20 out of all those rows. You can still offer a full-blown plan. Wellaby is over here with 10. That's closer to what we have with traditional, which is fine, because what Wellaby did is they have their 20 out of the 45 rows, and you can see Omniflex 33 of the 45 rows, really liberal for those limited plans. And Essential Care over here, again, 20, a little bit more than Omniflex, but very powerful limited care plan, right, Dennis? I mean, it offers much higher benefits on their limited care plan. So there's some really nice kick to that one. And Wellaby goes a step further. So I just want to show you that just to give you a bird's eye, again, 30,000 foot view. But if we go back to our presentation, if I can do that quickly here from current slide. All right, so here's their Omniflex. There's the 2 tiers we showed you, knockout questions. And then if you get this one, you get full-blown plans. And I'm not going to read them to you today, but I did want to show you the Wellaby. Just this is the one question they have to see if you can get that uninsurable spouse rider. Okay. And I'm not going to show you the other questions today and spend time on that. You can see that in the product training or the EAP training for Wellaby. But look at this one. There's what Dennis already said to you verbally. Are you currently confined or receiving assistance, or had a medical professional advise you that you need assistance for your activities of daily living? And guess what? If that's not an issue, you can at least get that quote unquote uninsurable spouse. And what a nice thing for a product like this to have available in that plan. So check out, oops, I didn't mean to escape there. Check out that in the Wellaby training when we get the product training on Wellaby, because you'll see that 2 and really kind of a 3-year or 3-tiered plan because of that uninsurable rider. So
And
that
Tom,
being said, go ahead, Dennis.
I was going to say, to point out, yeah, in a perfect world, we want to give people as comprehensive coverage as possible. But even if that unhealthy spouse only got a limited amount of home care, the point is you're saving a sale. You're helping the healthy spouse, and then you're also giving that healthy spouse the reason for the unhealthy spouse to buy, so that they feel better about making that decision. So that's why Wellaby is a great option when it comes to couples business, especially when you have an opportunity to be in front of individuals where, great, if both are healthy, still the couples business is great because there's some great discounts. But it's also great when one isn't healthy and that you're trying to, again, save the sale.
Perfect.
But, and that's to the home care only plans, again, where they're not as comprehensive, but some coverage is better than no coverage.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful point there, Dennis, because we've talked about that and we've trained agents for years, especially true long-term care agents. It's so funny. We always said it's the old contradiction of long-term care or extended care in general. And you'll see this as you get into this market, where once in a while it's usually dad playing hardball, right? It's mom's smart enough to know, yeah, I'm going to live for long enough. I guarantee I'm going to need some type of protection at some point. Dad, us dads go into denial. It's not always the dad, but I always pick on dads. We think we're going to die early. We're never going to need any of this stuff. We're fine. But that's one of the hard things. But then once you talk them into it and say, no, the smart business is let's get you both a plan. And then if one of them is uninsurable, they always say, well, if we can't both get it, we don't want it. And that's what Dennis is hitting on. That's a huge part of that Wellaby plan, to have that uninsurable rider to keep that conversation going. And that leads right into what we're talking about here, these home health care only plans. Same exact deal. If you get good at what we're doing here, you'll see it's easy to start the conversation. You'll see that we buy these more with your health than with your checkbook. And then you're going to pivot so easy. I promise you this. If you do this a couple times, you'll see that, okay, I'm going to ask about, you buy this more with your health and your checkbook. So let's talk a little bit about health. Have you had any health conditions? Have you been to the hospital the last 5 years? What's going on with your meds? And you'll find out how easy it is to find out that, oh, okay, in this case, one of them's not as healthy as the other. And then you can easily say, well, you know what? The best thing about this is we've got some great products in our integrity arsenal, and I can offer, Mom, you're a little bit healthier and you truthfully may need it more in the future because you might live a long life, it looks like. Tell you what, let's give you a really solid, full, comprehensive short-term care plan. And Dad, don't worry, we've got a home health care only plan here that it really kicks butt and takes names too, and we can get you some coverage. Okay, so there's ways to do this, even pivoting, saying I'm going to sell one short-term care and one home health care if we have to, or one other plan that we talk about today, some other option for the uninsurable or the more unhealthy spouse. And what we're talking about here, Dennis, I'll just keep rolling, is this is GTL's non-revised application. These are those home health care only plans that can be pretty powerful. They're not quite as robust as some of those full short-term care comprehensive plans. But if you've been on any of our trainings, they still can pack a punch. And this is the older GTL. They had just the 2 questions. You can see there first says, are you living in a facility or receiving home care right now? Or do you need any help from anybody with activities of daily living? Or are you cognitively impaired? Okay. And then question C for the most powerful plan goes one more step and just says, we want to make sure you're not knocking on the door where you're ready to have a surgery or you need care and you know it, and you're jumping on a policy here. So that's only for the most powerful plan, right? Their more robust new plan that they have, same questions, just kind of worded a little different. You know what I mean? It's the same deal here. There's 1 saying, are you living in a facility? 2 saying, are you getting help with ADLs? 3 is the cognitive, that they just expand a little bit to include dementia and memory loss. And then there's a C that's just worded differently, but the same question. So you can see they're super broad, easy to get with GTL. Okay. And GTL short-term home care, I'm going to say this first, Manhattan Life's home care plan, even easier than GTL's, right? Remember when I just showed you that tool and I said, True Freedom's over here and look at the GTL? This Manhattan Life was the same as True Freedom. It literally is basically the same, saying, are you currently living in a nursing home or receiving home care or unable to perform activities of daily living today? And that really is broad, isn't it? That's very, very broad compared to what we had. Even more broad than what? The GTL home care plan, right? GTL had one more question, but it might be a biggie in some of your cases where there's those cognitive impairments. So, Dennis, what I want to show there is that, GTL, without getting into product training too much, GTL, if you put these side by side, they just made some enhancements to their plan that makes it a little bit stronger. The home health care aid coverage is stronger. But again, today we're talking about sickly situations, right? So if you're going to have somebody in front of you that says, I'm not going to kid you, my doctor's been telling me that I do have early onset memory loss issues and dementia coming on, or whatever the case may be, remember how cool these plans are, because they have broad age ranges, and you will come across people that maybe have some cognitive impairment starting. And remember, Alzheimer's is a pretty slow, insidious disease, right? That it starts out where you might say, boy, you've got early Alzheimer's, but you're not going to need a lot of help yet. But I do want to give you the bad news. It's coming. And, if you get those type of people, look at how great this Manhattan Life home care plan can be. And again, carriers probably cringe, right, Dennis? But it's still a great opportunity for people. Do you want to add anything to that part?
Oh, I think Tom, they're both great carriers, and again, some of it may be age specific, where GTL starts at age 61 and Manhattan starts at age 45 and goes to 89, and GTL goes to 84. Sorry, 61 to 84, or 61 to 85. I apologize.
No problem.
So they are both great fits. And again, a lot of it is just, again, we talk about this all the time, but, if you prepare carefully, you'll be able to know, the age of your client and really where you're going to go, so that you can eliminate certain options that may not be a fit.
Right. And in bringing up what Dennis was talking about, the ages, those are right in this InstaPivot tool and obviously on the website. So you'll have them at your fingertips at all times. But watch what we're talking about here. We're going to go into True Freedom next, and that goes all the way to age 99, which is a huge plus. One of the biggest abilities of these are availability, and part of that's the age groups. And Manhattan Life, again, remember the cool thing about this plan and this plan, 85 and 89, they go up that far. Think of like just that cognitive question we just had. When you get into your 80s, there's people that you might come across that might say, yeah, you know what, I do have some memory issues starting, and I'm gonna have some issues with that in the future. I know it's not going to get better. And you know what? Look at how strong that is with Manhattan Life. And again, that one doesn't have the cognitive. And remember, what do these plans have? If you go to our product training, they've got RX reimbursement, right? Guess what comes along with having some of those memory issues and some of those failing healths, and the sicker you get, whether it's GTL or Manhattan, if you get away from the cognitive, I can include them both. They have those RX benefit reimbursements, right? That and Omniflex has it as well. That's big, because remember, today we're talking about sickly people, and guess what? The sicker you are, what happens to that shoebox full of meds? It gets a little bit bigger, right? So the more meds people are on, suddenly you can start looking at it and saying, hey, guess what? This is a win-win for you as a client, because we're going to have premiums involved in this, but we're going to be able to protect you, but your net premium is going to go down if the more meds you have, because these policies pay really, really pretty robust RX benefits. So Dennis, why don't you talk a little bit about True Freedom, or you can add to what I just said if you need to.
Sure, yeah. Well, again, coming back to what we call our perfect portfolio, and perfect meaning the fact that we have coverage everywhere. True Freedom is, think of it like AAA. It's a membership. It's a non-insurance product, but you're buying membership hours, home care hours, in the top home care agencies in the country, Visiting Angels, Comfort Keepers, so on, are one way that you can use the services. The other is there is a friend and neighbor ability to provide care, and where that friend and neighbor can actually get reimbursed about half of the going rate for a caregiver caregiving cost today, which a home care agency cost is about $28 an hour. But the suitability is, there's not medical underwriting. It's just, are you currently living independently at this time? Are you currently able to perform your activities of daily living? So where we're used to answering no, in this case, you answer yes, I'm living independently and I'm able to perform my activities of daily living. And so if it's a no answer, don't submit. And True Freedom has been very, very important, because states like Florida, New York, California, we've actually had some associations and have done some group business in those particular states, business that we never would have done because we wouldn't have had any other product option. So True Freedom is something just to keep in mind, that, again, it falls back into that category of when you're in that sticky situation with someone who's sickly, it's important. And Tom, I can pick up and talk a little bit more about number 4 if you want.
Yeah, I didn't put any examples on here because I didn't want to get that deep, because these hybrids can be so different. But I did put this just as a talking point, because there are some pros and cons. So go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, and we're not going to cover carrier specific, but Equitrust recently came out with a combination of a fixed index annuity with a true long-term care coverage, where they both grow over time, and if you don't need the dollars out of the account, there's a way to actually access the long-term care component. And get with your marketer who brought you on this call. They probably have Equitrust, and if not, they can, I'm sure, get Equitrust, American Equity, Allianz, Nationwide on the fixed index annuity side, as well as others, North American. There's a number of other carriers out there in the annuity space. Some of the carriers will even have doublers if someone ends up with a chronic illness where they need to access that. They can get double the value out of the account. And again, typically those don't have underwriting. There is an underwriting question based on rate classification with the Equitrust. So just be mindful that, again, giving someone, some coverage, and again, the annuity is not the perfect panacea, because obviously you're using your own money, and there may be an enhancement to your own money if they have a doubler associated with that plan. But again, typically you can take the underwriting off the table. And
yeah, and Dennis, talk just a second about one of the things about the annuities that, and again, you may not get deep into this, especially the group we're talking to today, that you might be selling totally other products, and you're not in the woods or in the forest or even in the weeds on these type of extended care plans yet. But I do want you to know they're out there. One of the things that talk about the fact that you will come across some clients who maybe are looking for tax advantages or have a big chunk of money, because one of the things with these hybrid plans, they can be a nice option for people who are saying, boy, I really actually have $100,000 that I want to put somewhere. Does that make sense? I don't want to go deep on it, obviously.
Yeah, they typically have minimum ththresholds. Obviously, in order to get a meaningful benefit, whether it's with the chronic illness rider or with plans like the Equitrust, you're going to have what we call a certain downstroke of probably 50, 100,000 or more. And again, there's some people that you may be in front of that are not candidates for these products, because they might have great income, but they're not necessarily have substantial assets that they can reallocate from a money market or from a mutual fund or from any other accounts. But the lump sum may be more difficult. So that's why kind of the pay-as-you-go plans are very, very popular, because all you're doing is just budgeting for the premium versus the idea of coming up with some larger lump sum. But there are clients out there today that do put large amounts of dollars into these accounts to get a meaningful benefit in the event of a long-term care situation.
You bet. Yeah, you bet. And there's always pros and cons with any of them. And the big thing for you guys, like Dennis said, if you come across somebody and that you start talking overall about it, and this comes up and they think, well, what are some of my options? I have some extra money or something like that, or they want to look and they really want a broad view. Contact the person who got you on this webinar, contact your marketer. And if they have questions, they know they can come to us, and we can help fill them in if they need help at that level. So Dennis, the last one we're really going to talk about today before we just quickly show the website is some of these life. And again, I use hybrid plans because they're called link plans. There's so many different things that people call them. And some of these have true long-term care 7702B, and some have chronic illness riders. So we always have to be careful because it gets confusing a little bit, and you don't really have to, number one, go get into the weeds and understand every little semantic part of it. But anyway, Dennis, I'll just leave it in your case because I think you're really good at these hybrid type things to talk about just on a broad, high level.
Yeah, I mean, the carriers, whether it's One America, Nationwide, and some of them, again, like One America has a great annuity option that has a long-term care component to it for where you're taking the underwriting off the table. Nationwide has got a great hybrid. There is underwriting, so that may or may not be a fit. There's another association wrapper product that is not part of the integrity, and these other carriers are not part of our integrity short-term care initiative. We're just trying to tell you what's available in the marketplace. But this is a product that's actually underwritten by Chubb. What makes it unique is it's a group certificate that goes all the way down to one life. And the only underwriting question, and it's ages 19 to age 70 is the issue age on this particular product. So it's not for everyone. It's not for your 71-year-old client, and it's not for anyone younger than 19. But the nice thing is that they can get a face amount of $25,000, $50,000, and $75,000. And it has a 4% drawdown of that face amount. So if someone has a $50,000 face, 4% can be used of the $50,000, which is $2,000 a month for 25 months. And it's a true 7702B tax-free long-term care benefit. And if you want to go all the way up to 150,000, 100, 125, 150, there's these additional questions. And again, most of them are not typical underwriting. They're more lifestyle related. Such as the AIDS question, such as have you been to a doctor in the last 6 months for anything other than a routine physical or cold or flu? And have you missed more than 5 consecutive days of work? And if you answer no to those A, B, C, and D, those 4 additional questions, then you can go all the way up to 150,000. Think about that, 150,000 face amount coverage, which is a level benefit term to age 121. 4% of that 150 is 6,000 a month for 25 months for long-term care. So, and you've done that with taking the underwriting off the table. So there's solutions out there. And all we're trying to do today is just inform and educate and help you to know that you should be looking, surveying the marketplace to find out. And we're just trying to give you a little bit of an inside track as to not a complete comprehensive list of everything that's out there, but just to give you a feel that there is products and there is solutions when you run into those sticky, sickly, situations. And it's all about, again, having that conversation, making sure that, you identify. And Tom, one last thing I'd like to say is before we go to the site to show everyone where they can at least get the information on the home care and on the extended care, is that when you help someone who doesn't think they have a chance, and you know how people feel, they maybe were priced out of or underwritten out of other solutions. They tried to get long-term care. They tried to get maybe a traditional hybrid or asset-based, and they were turned down. And people, they get, they still want peace of mind, so they haven't given up hope, but their hope is starting to dim because they don't think there's an option for them. And then you come along and you become the problem solver. And I'm going to tell you this, you want to talk about a referral opportunity, people who are unhealthy, I'm sorry, and maybe this sounds, a little bit too bold, but sometimes unhealthy people know other unhealthy people. And maybe they've got situations that, with family history that runs through their whole family of whether it's cancer or whether it's heart related or whatever the medical conditions that made them ineligible for coverage. And they are going to be more than happy to share their good news about getting coverage with others that may be in similar situations. So I would just say you could turn the negative into a positive here and help a lot of folks.
Absolutely, Dennis. And I tell you what, I can't stress enough what he just said, how true that is, because of the fact that, don't be afraid to start the conversation. Go on our webinars that show you how easy it is to turn heads and start a conversation. When you get into our sales, and even when you get into the answer objections and designing plans, hopefully if you're getting a feel for this, I see some names that have been in quite a few of the webinars. Our goal is to make sure you realize we go a little deeper to train you as an agent on some things, but it's very, very simple to go out and talk to a client about it, especially when you have a built-in relationship like a lot of you do from selling other products. So don't forget, even if you skip the life stuff we talked about and the annuity stuff today, just in our short-term care perfect portfolio here with these comprehensive short-term care plans, remember, recovery cash, great. The best plan out there. It's been around forever. Everybody loves it. It's a great, solid plan. And they've got a great reputation. And that underwriting is like a more traditional short-term care plan, right? Omniflex, Wellaby, now they have two-tiered underwriting. So now you can look at it and throw the net a little bit wider because we're talking about sickly today, right? Wellaby to one extent, all the way down to the uninsurable spouse rider, and Omniflex, which throws their limited plan about as wide as you dare go in a comprehensive short-term care plan. Then our home care plans go a step further, right? We've got GTL and Manhattan Life, great plans out there, and they offer GTL maybe a little bit stronger head-to-head coverage because of the home health aid offering for the full benefit period, but Manhattan Life doesn't have that cognitive knockout. So again, really strong, and we have the tools like that InstaPivot or right in all of these. If you look at it, or if you go to our training, we really try to show, when we do even product training, we try to show extreme prejudice towards those little niches that Dennis is talking about, where hopefully you'll remember saying, oh yeah, we have a plan that's going to be able to cover that. And same thing over here at True Freedom, very super liberal. And this is a non-insurance plan. And if you click here on any one of those, as you know, if you've been on previous webinars, you can go and see more information about those products. And I always have to show you the sales and marketing area, because if you really want to go out and help people, you don't have to sit home, obviously, and kill yourself by trying to listen to us yap at you for hour and after hour after hour. But I do want you to know there's some good stats in here. And if you go right down to this area down here under the sales and marketing material, and if you click on view full webinar schedule, you're going to see, and I'll just may as well open it, every webinar that we've given, and some shorter topics are in here too, but you can see we're going to be pushing 49. Now we'll be at 50 by tomorrow probably, or next week. And these are all these different product training things that we've done. So if you ever thinking, hey, I'm going to go out and meet a client, I wonder if I should talk about self-insuring because they might be one, go in there and listen to part of it. Start the conversation, owner versus renter. I mean, all these different things are available for you. You hear that old cliche, and I'm going to do it again, Dennis, is that we don't throw you out of the plane without a parachute. You have everything you need to have to be really successful. There's consumer marketing pieces here. And again, we're adding to this site all the time. It's a living, breathing site. And Dennis does some fantastic fireside chats and conceptual selling down at the bottom of that sales and marketing. So I won't beat you over the head with it and show you every part of this site today. But the big thing is, you're going to see in the next slide, when I get away from this, it's going to say the next step is up to you. If you're not appointed yet with all these carriers in our short-term care initiative for integrity, all you have to do is call the person who got you on this web, or now you can go right to this site. And if you click on get appointed, it's going to pop you up with just a form. And again, this is your information now as an agent, right? And it'll ask who your upline partner is. And every one of your partners who got you on these calls have individual links. So we'll know where you came from if you showed up on one of our webinars, and we'll make sure you get steered correctly to that. So you'll get appointed the way you plan on getting appointed. And you can click out all these products or just some of them if you want to. So really easy to do. We try to make everything as easy as possible, and we try to give you as much opportunity to help those Americans out there who desperately need it as possible. So Dennis, any final thoughts before we let everybody go today?
Yeah, Tom, I've enjoyed this because, this happens more often than not, that people wait too long to plan ahead. Their health changes, and or that they, as I said, they looked into other options and got shut down. And so I think you're going to find that if you visit the site and again, prepare carefully. I'll just give you one last bit of what I think is important insights, and that is offer what your client needs, offer what your client can afford, but as important, offer what your client can qualify for. And what we talked about today is what are those options that we know that the client can qualify for. And you've got to get outside your comfort level just a little bit. Tom, I've shared this with you, and I'll share it with the group. This quote that I really like, and it goes like this: "If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them." I think we all have to move outside of our limitations and expand our horizons, and realize that we are in this business to help people. And many of them are not going to be those perfect clients that just are super healthy and buy the most robust plans. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have sticky, sickly situations, sickly clients in sticky situations you're going to find yourself in. But don't limit yourself. Be the one that steps up and be that resource. Money becomes the byproduct of the service that you render. And I will tell you, your clients will thank you for helping them when they really were, as I said, when hope was starting to fade away.
Positively right. And again, as we let you go today, and have a great weekend, and thank you for jumping on, but we do want you to know these products do pay tremendously well, because we know it's not a hobby, but more importantly, or just as importantly in there, remember the persistency of your existing business is going to be better with more products. And like Dennis said, especially in these sickly situations, people are going to love you for it, because a lot of people in America, a lot of people are out there holding off, pulling the trigger of even looking into this stuff. Remember, 90% of adults have never had a conversation about how to protect themselves, and 70% plus of the people are going to need some type of care at some point. You can be that savior. You can be that person who walks in and says, "Hey, before I let you go, I just want to make sure you have your extended care protection in place." And that's sometimes all it takes to start that conversation. And once you show them all these great options they have, it's really easy to get them in place. Doesn't take very long. And you're going to have way too many wins not to do it, to step out of your comfort zone. More money for you, more help for the client, and more persistency in the future for your products that you have existing. So thank you, everybody. Again, appreciate all you do, and have a great weekend. Dennis, final thoughts, and we'll let them go.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, and thanks everyone for joining us, and continued success. We know many of you are getting to the final sprint with AEP, and you're looking probably to come up for air, and those of you that sell other products and this is not your core, again, take the time, prepare carefully, and I think you'll surprise yourself at what great success you'll have. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
The next step is yours. Contact your marketer for more information and to start offering short-term care solutions to your clients. And be sure to sign up for our other short-term care hot topic webinars.